Imagine a scene. You wake up early, face traffic, fulfill your work hours with dedication, and at the end of the month, receive your salary. For a few moments, you feel relief. But this relief soon turns into anxiety when you start putting the bills on paper. Rent already takes a considerable part, groceries consume another slice, and when we add water, electricity, internet, and small daily expenses, almost nothing is left. This cycle repeats month after month. It's like filling a leaky bucket. No matter how much water you put in, it always seems to be leaking. Many end up believing that the problem lies in the salary itself, that it would only be possible to breathe if they earned much more. But the truth is that for most people, even when salary increases, expenses increase along with it, and the feeling of tightness never goes away. This frustration is common, silent, and even painful. It corrodes the hope of those who dream of achieving something greater, because everything seems distant when money evaporates so quickly. It's the portrait of most people's financial life, a lot of effort, little visible result, and the constant doubt, will I ever manage to get out of this rat race? Many people believe that wealth is a matter of luck or having a huge salary. But as Robert Kiyosaki teaches, what really defines financial future is not the amount that enters your account, but how you decide to use it. He always reinforces that anyone can build wealth from scratch, as long as they know how to manage money intelligently. Think about it. Two people can earn exactly the same salary, but while one spends everything on bills, superfluities, and status, the other chooses to separate part of that amount to invest in assets that will generate more income in the future. It's this difference in mindset that changes destinies. Kiyosaki explains that getting rich is a matter of discipline and daily choices. Learning to take care of what you already earn, even if it seems little, is what opens the door to financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki always repeats a phrase that seems simple, but that explains why so many people spend their entire lives working without ever achieving financial freedom. The problem isn't how much you earn, but how you live. Think with me. How many people do you know who, when they get a raise, immediately change cars, move to a bigger apartment, or start spending at expensive restaurants? It's as if the raise came with an invisible obligation to prove to the world that they're now on another level. But what happens in practice is that the money that could be used to create financial security ends up being consumed by an increasingly expensive lifestyle. Kiyosaki warns that many work not to get rich, but to appear rich. They buy brand clothes, finance the latest cell phone in installments, fill the house with things that don't increase their income at all. This creates an illusion of success, but behind the facade is someone in debt, without reserves, and constantly worried about the next bill. True wealth isn't born from salary, but from the way it's directed. If every income increase is accompanied by an increase in expenses, you'll never get anywhere. It's like running on a treadmill. You make an effort, but you stay put. Kiyosaki shows that the key is to change focus, get out of the race for status, and start using money as a tool to build freedom. Robert Kiyosaki uses the expression rat race to describe a cycle in which millions of people are trapped without realizing it. Imagine a hamster running non-stop in a wheel. It spends all its energy but never gets anywhere. That's exactly what happens with most people's financial life. The logic is simple. The person starts earning little, dreams of a raise, and believes that when that happens, their life will change. The raise comes, but along with it comes a new financed car, a bigger house with heavier installments, credit card trips in installments, and often even loans to sustain this new standard. The result? Despite the higher salary, less money is left over than before. This cycle is dangerous because it gives the false sensation of progress. The person works more, earns more, but also spends more. They continue living from paycheck to paycheck, afraid of losing their job, always on the edge. This generates anxiety, poorly slept nights, and the constant feeling that financial life is out of control. The problem with the rat race is that it's addictive. The neighbor changes cars, you feel you need to change too. The co-worker travels abroad, you start financing a trip to not fall behind. And so, little by little, people become slaves to a lifestyle they can't sustain. Kiyosaki teaches that getting out of this race doesn't mean giving up living well, but rather changing the game. Stop chasing status and start chasing freedom. As long as you spend everything you earn, or even more than you earn, you'll never have peace. But when you learn to control your impulses and direct money toward assets, the wheel finally starts turning in your favor. If there's an exit from the rat race, it starts with a simple but powerful decision: living below your means. This doesn't mean living poorly, going through privations, or stopping enjoying life. It simply means not spending everything you earn, and mainly not spending more than you earn. Robert Kiyosaki explains that every real that's left over and not wasted on superfluous things can become a seed. And like every seed, when planted in the right soil, it grows and bears fruit. This soil is assets, investments, businesses, real estate, stocks, funds, anything that puts money in your pocket instead of taking it out. But here's the detail: most people prefer to harvest today what they haven't even planted yet. They buy the latest generation television in 12 installments, the car that doesn't fit the budget, clothes to impress people who don't even pay attention. The result is that they spend years working to pay debts instead of working to conquer freedom. Living below your means requires intelligent choices. It's looking at each purchase and asking, will this bring me freedom or tie me down even more? It's learning to say no to impulse and yes to the future. When this discipline enters the routine, something magical happens. The money that used to disappear in bills starts to accumulate, and when well invested, starts working for you. This is the turning point. Stop being a slave to salary and start building a solid foundation to never again depend only on it. It's trading the anxiety of month end for the tranquility of knowing that little by little, you're creating your own freedom. We live in a society that on every corner invites us to spend. Just turn on the television, open your phone, or walk through a mall. We're bombarded by advertisements that promise happiness in the form of products. The car of the year brings status, the new phone guarantees success, brand clothes make it seem like you belong to a select group. But all this is a carefully created illusion. Robert Kiyosaki warns that the financial system and the market work together to keep people trapped in an infinite consumption cycle. You spend, get into debt, work more to pay, spend again, and thus remain trapped in the rat race without realizing it. It's as if with each purchase you were feeding a momentary sensation of victory, but soon after came the weight of the bill. This cycle silently destroys the possibility of building wealth because the money that could be generating income is drained by things that lose value the instant they leave the store. True freedom begins when you see this manipulation and decide not to play this game anymore. When you realize that happiness isn't in having the latest model of something, but rather in knowing that your future is increasingly secure. It's at this moment that consumption stops being an enemy and becomes a conscious choice. One of the biggest secrets to building wealth isn't in haste, but in patience. Robert Kiyosaki teaches that money is like a tree. You don't plant today and harvest tomorrow. First, you need to prepare the soil, then plant the seed, take care of it daily, and only then, with time, the fruits start to appear. Many people give up halfway because they want immediate results. They invest a little, and if they don't get rich in a few months, they conclude that this doesn't work. But wealth isn't a quick prize, it's a process. It's the result of years making good decisions, reinvesting profits, avoiding unnecessary debts, and maintaining focus even when the temptation to spend appears. Financial patience also brings tranquility. When you understand that each small step counts, you don't despair for not having achieved everything at once. You know you're on the right path, and this certainty is worth more than any impulse purchase. The problem is that modern society doesn't encourage patience. It sells haste. Buy now, pay later. But those who learn to wait harvest something that few have, true freedom. Like a tree that gives shade and fruit for a lifetime, your investments, when cultivated calmly, start to sustain you. Robert Kiyosaki always repeats, the biggest difference between rich and poor isn't just in the bank account, but in the way of thinking. While most people see money only as something to spend and pay bills, the investor looks at money as a tool to build more wealth. The common employee thinks like this: I receive my salary, now I need to divide it between rent, groceries, bills, and if there's any left, give myself a present. Nay, the investor reasons differently. I receive my money, how can I make part of it work for me and generate even more income in the future? This mindset change is transformative. When you think like an owner, you start to see opportunities where before you only saw expenses. A simple saved amount can become an investment in stocks, funds, real estate, or even in knowledge that increases your capacity to generate income. Money stops being just a means of survival and becomes a partner, an employee who works for you, even while you sleep. Kiyosaki states that most people's mistake is spending their whole life trading time for money. The rich person, on the other hand, uses time to create systems, assets, and investments that continue generating results without depending only on personal effort. This is the mindset that liberates. And here's the big question. Are you thinking like an employee who always depends on a salary? Or are you already starting to think like an owner who creates sources of income and builds freedom? Having dreams is easy. Everyone desires a life without debts, a comfortable home of their own, being able to travel whenever they want, or even retire with tranquility. But between dream and reality, there's a bridge. And the name of this bridge is discipline. Robert Kiyosaki shows that the problem isn't lack of knowledge, because today information is everywhere, but rather the difficulty of applying every day what we know needs to be done. It's saying no to that impulse purchase, religiously separating part of the salary to invest, controlling small expenses that, when added up, become a huge hole in the budget. Discipline is what transforms good intentions into concrete results. It's no use wanting wealth if you don't create the habit of taking care of money seriously. Imagine someone who decides to start walking to improve their health. One day of exercise doesn't change anything, but months of consistency change everything. With money, it's the same thing. The most interesting thing is that the more you practice financial discipline, the more natural it becomes. In the beginning, it might seem difficult to give up immediate pleasures, but soon you realize you're building something much bigger. With each investment made, each expense avoided, you get closer to a life of freedom. And remember, dreams without discipline remain only as wishes. Dreams accompanied by discipline transform into achievements. It's this difference that separates those who only dream from those who actually achieve. Robert Kiyosaki always highlights that depending on just one single source of income, normally the salary, is like walking on a fragile bridge. At any moment it can break. Just one layoff, an economic crisis, or a health problem for the entire structure to collapse. That's why he teaches that the path to freedom lies in building various sources of income. Think about how many people you know who live on a tightrope, waiting for the next payment to pay the bills. Now imagine another person who, besides salary, has a small online business, receives rent from real estate, invests in funds that pay dividends, and still has a reserve applied that generates interest. Even if one of these sources fails, the others continue sustaining their life. This is real security. Creating multiple sources of income doesn't mean starting something gigantic immediately. It can be something simple, like selling a parallel service, monetizing a hobby, investing in stocks that pay dividends, or even acquiring knowledge that allows generating new earnings. The important thing is to take the first step and not depend only on your work time. Kiyosaki explains that the secret lies in making money work for you. When you create different entry flows, you start to experience a rare sensation, the tranquility of knowing that the future doesn't depend only on a boss or a single job. Each new source is like a pillar that strengthens your financial foundation. After all, ask yourself, do you prefer to walk on a wooden bridge, fragile and unique, or build various solid columns that sustain your financial life in any storm? Robert Kiyosaki often says that before investing in real estate, stocks, or businesses, you need to invest in yourself. And this means acquiring financial education. Because if you think about it, what's the use of earning more money if you don't know how to manage it? It's like handing a race car to someone who doesn't know how to drive. The chance of accident is enormous. Financial education is what differentiates those who spend everything they earn from those who multiply every cent. It's the knowledge that makes you see opportunities that previously went unnoticed and, mainly, prevents you from falling into traps, like high-interest debts, long financings, or investments that seem miraculous but hide enormous risks. The most powerful thing is that this type of knowledge is never lost. Unlike material goods that devalue over time, everything you learn continues bearing fruit for the rest of your life. It's an invisible asset, but extremely valuable. Kiyosaki insists, schools teach mathematics, history, and sciences, but almost never teach how to deal with money. That's why it's up to each of us to seek this learning. Whether reading books, watching videos, participating in courses, or exchanging experiences with people who have already walked this path, the more you know, the more prepared you are to make intelligent decisions. And remember, poorly managed money can escape from your hands in seconds, but well-applied knowledge multiplies your results for decades. This is the only asset that no one can take from you. Robert Kiyosaki teaches that true financial freedom happens when you can live not from your work, but from the income that your assets produce. In other words, it's the moment when money starts working for you, and not the other way around. Think with me. While most people depend exclusively on salary, which requires time, energy, and effort, those who build assets create a silent machine for generating income. It can be a rented property that pays part of the bills every month, stocks that distribute dividends regularly, a small online business that works even while you sleep, or even copyrights from something you created. The difference is brutal. Those who depend only on salary always live in fear. Fear of losing their job, fear of not being able to handle debts, fear that a crisis will bring down their stability. Those who build assets feel security because they know their income doesn't come from a single source, but from various gears that spin non-stop. And here's the most inspiring detail. Financial freedom doesn't mean stopping work, but rather working by choice, not by obligation. It's waking up in the morning and deciding how to use your time, because your bills are already being paid by the income flow you built over the years. Kiyosaki shows that this isn't a privilege of few, but rather the result of discipline, vision, and consistent action. Every real invested in an asset is like a soldier who goes to battle to fight for you. And when your army of assets gets big enough, you conquer something that no money can buy: freedom of time and choices. Robert Kiyosaki always emphasizes that haste is the enemy of wealth. Most people think only about today. They want to spend what they earn now, have immediate pleasure, show quick achievements. But those who truly build wealth have a different mentality. They think long-term. It's like planting a tree. If you only look at the present, you might think the seed is too small, insignificant. But those who see the future know that, with patience and care, that seed will transform into a leafy tree, capable of giving fruit and shade for many years. So it is with money. Small investments made with consistency may seem slow at the beginning, but over time they multiply impressively. The problem is that the modern world teaches us to seek instant rewards. We buy on credit because we don't want to wait. We change phones even without necessity. We spend on passing pleasures that, in a few weeks, have already lost their shine. This short-term mentality steals the future because it consumes the money that could be working for you. Kiyosaki shows that true change happens when you start thinking like an investor, not like a consumer. Instead of asking, "What can I buy today?" the right question is, "What can I build to harvest tomorrow?" This future vision is what separates those who continue trapped in the rat race from those who achieve financial freedom. In the end, thinking long-term is actually taking care of your tomorrow self. Every decision you make today is a gift or a burden that you deliver to the future. The choice is always in your hands. Robert Kiyosaki often says that one of the biggest traps of modern life is the search for false sense of security. Since we're small, we hear phrases like study, get a good job, and have stability. This advice, repeated for generations, seems correct. After all, who doesn't desire security? But in practice, it traps millions of people in a life of financial dependence. Fixed salary gives temporary comfort, but also creates a type of invisible prison. You receive, pay the bills, and conform to what's left over. Any risk of change, opening a business, investing in something new, seeking income alternatives, seems too dangerous. The fear of losing the little you have prevents conquering much more. That's why so many cling to the safe, even if it means living with limitations forever. Kiyosaki warns that true security isn't in depending on a boss or a company, but in building freedom. And this freedom comes when you create assets that generate income independent of your work. While most seek immediate stability, those who dare to build assets achieve peace in the future. It's like living inside a golden cage. From the outside, it seems comfortable, but inside, you remain trapped. The key lies in understanding that leaving the comfort zone requires courage, study, and discipline, but rewards with something that no stability guarantees: the chance to live without fear, to have real choices, and not depend only on a salary to survive. The question is, do you prefer to continue with today's false security or start walking the path that leads to true financial freedom tomorrow? Now that we've journeyed together, it's clear that wealth isn't born from chance, nor from luck, much less from very high salaries. It's born from choices, daily choices, sometimes small, but that over time build a solid path to financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki showed us that the real enemy isn't the size of the salary, but the lifestyle we lead. The rat race, uncontrolled consumption, and the search for status keep millions of people trapped in an endless cycle. But there's always a way out. This way out lies in living below your means, creating multiple sources of income, investing in assets, cultivating patience, and above all, seeking financial education. Remember, every reel that passes through your hands can be spent in a passing way or can be planted as a seed of freedom. The choice is always with you. And now I want to invite you to reflect. Are you going to continue running inside the wheel, trapped in the same debts and frustrations, or will you decide to change your mindset and start building real wealth? If this content made sense to you and brought new ideas about how to get out of the rat race and start building financial freedom, I ask you for one simple thing. Go ahead and leave your like and subscribe to the channel. This helps me continue bringing more and more transformative content to you. And don't stop here. Share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this message. Often, a simple word is capable of completely changing the way a person deals with money and opens doors to a much better future. So, like, subscribe and share. Who knows if you won't be exactly the instrument to awaken someone close's financial freedom?